Hey everyone, welcome back to our scenes. So in today's video we will be discussing coordination in plants. So this particular video falls third, that is this particular video is part 3 in the series for control and coordination. Okay, so if you have not checked the previous parts, I'll just leave the links for part 1 as well as part 2 in the description box so that you can check it out for your reference. Now let's talk about coordination in plants. So if you remember, in my part 1 I have already told you regarding control and coordination. So it's something like this. So control and coordination is brought about by a response, right? So you can identify control and coordination only with the help of the responses given by your system. And a response is detected by a movement. If there is a movement, this shows that a response has been given. A movement might be in the form of change in size, change in shape, or change in position. Now if you remember, while discussing nervous system, we have already discussed that whatever messages is received by our muscles, it is shown by the change in the shape of the muscle cells, and which is being brought about with the help of proteins, right? In case of muscles it was proteins, but in case of plants it's going to be by the quantity of water. By the change in the amount of water, the cells are going to change its shape. That is how it's going to happen in case of plants. Okay, otherwise it's supposed to be with the help of change in position, but change in position is not going to be an entire change in position like in case of animals, because you know that in plants they are not locomotory, they don't have any organ for locomotion, they are fixed at a certain place. Okay, so now regarding movement are of two types. In case of plants we are talking about here, so it's either going to be independent of growth or dependent of growth. That means if at all the movement is happening without growth, that means growth has nothing to do with this particular movement, those comes under independent of growth, and the movement which is brought about with the help of growth, they come under dependent of growth. Okay. So now under independent of growth we have got only one, that is Chemotropism. What is this? I'm going to explain to you in detail. And under dependent growth we have got 4: Phototropism, Chemotropism, Hydrotropism, as well as Geotropism. Now let's try and understand what is Chemotropism, which falls under the category of independent of growth. Chemo refers to touch. So here we are talking about response to touch. Certain plants respond to touch. We are going to talk about them and how is it carried out. So the best example here is Mimosa pudica or touch me not plant. So I hope and I believe that each one of us have experienced this. So whenever you touch the leaves of touch me not plant or Mimosa pudica, the scientific name, they are going to close up, they are going to droop in such manner, right? Okay, so what is actually happening here, or how is it that it is responding so quickly and drooping within seconds? So as if you remember, in case of human nervous system, I have already explained you that the messages or the communication method is through electrical signals. In case of plants, we don't have a very well developed nervous system. We don't have anything very much or even a little bit closer to our nervous system. Instead, we have a different and simpler mechanism over here which uses electrochemical message transmission. So this is exactly how the message will be conveyed from cell to cell, that is in the form of electrical chemical impulse, and a response is generated again. Once again the message comes to your target cell, that is your, in this case, the leaves, okay, to droop them. Okay, so this is the impulse, electrical chemical. That means it's having a part of electricity, it is having certain hormones as well, which will function for the work. Now, as said before, here we don't have any specialized proteins like in case of our muscle cells, which were changing in shape and causing the contraction of muscles. In this case, we have got water. Okay, so plants will change shape by changing the amount of water in them. Quantity of water as it is differing, the cell sizes and cell shapes may vary. So that is how they will be putting their, the mechanism into work. So since this is an immediate response, okay, and here this only needs a touch. So the stimulus is going to be one touch, Chemotropism. It is responding to touch, and this response is very much immediate response compared to all the rest what we are going to see, that is which is depending on growth. Growth takes time, it is very slow, it's it takes a large time comparatively to this will happen within a matter of seconds, right? So you'll be observing this sooner. So that is about Chemotropism. Next we are going to talk about the examples for dependent of growth, the movement which is dependent of growth. So we're going to start with phototropism. So the word photo here refers to light. So response to light, growth towards light or away from light. That is, if light is affecting the growth, then we call it as phototropism. So let's try to understand it better. So normally we have observed the positive side of phototropism. Okay, if you're selecting a plant, okay, which is actually having too much affinity towards sunlight, like for example sunflower or any such kind of plant, or any normal plant which might be growing in your garden, and if you just take a stem, if you keep it planted in a vase, and if you keep it near your window, what you're going to observe is with time the branches or the stem is going to lean towards the direction of sunlight. If at all your sunlight is streaming from the window, then you're going to observe that with the passing days your stem is starting to bend, or the growth which is happening at the shoot tips and all, it is starting to bend towards the direction of sunlight. So this shows that your plant is responding to the light, not any light but sunlight. If you're going to give it artificial light, no, it's not going to respond as it is responding towards sunlight. So this is about phototropism. Response of the plant towards the sunlight is nothing but phototropism. Next, let's talk about chemotropism. Chemo here refers to chemicals. So what chemicals are we talking about? What response towards chemicals are we talking about in case of plants? So the best example here is of pollen tube. The chapter is not yet done to you, but I'll just show you how it is actually happening. As you can see here, a pollen grain is sitting on the stigma, okay, and a pollen tube is being generated from your pollen grain, right? So here, as you are seeing, this pollen tube is growing directly towards the direction of the female germ cell. So how do you think the pollen tube knows the direction? The female germ cell will be releasing certain chemicals for the pollen tube. Okay, so this chemical generated by the female germ cell will attract the pollen tube towards itself, causing the pollen tube to know the direction where to grow. Okay, and that is how directly it will be growing towards the female germ cell. The best example for chemotropism to be explained. Next comes hydrotropism. Hydro here refers to water. So we are talking about response to water. Okay, so plants, specifically the roots, will tend to grow towards the direction of water. Wherever they find water in abundance, roots will start to grow in the direction of the water. So this is because plants needs water, and they will tend to grow towards the direction of water because they can easily grab water or easily have easy access to water. So that explains your hydrotropism. Next comes geotropism. So as we are talking about geotropism, geo here refers to earth. Response to earth is nothing but geotropism. Here we have got two types, that is positive geotropism and negative geotropism. Let's see what is it. So as we're talking about geo, it's not completely referring to earth, but it's actually referring to the gravity. Okay, if something is growing towards the direction of the gravity, we call it as positive, and if something is growing against the direction of the gravity, we call it as negative tropism. Roots, they grow towards the direction of the gravity, that is, they grow downwards. Hence, we call it as geotrophic, that is geotropism. Okay, positive geotropism. Then if we take the example of the stem part of the plant, they tend to grow above the ground level. That is, they try to grow against the direction of the gravity. Hence, this falls under negative geotropism. That's about geotropism. Next, we are going to talk about plant hormones. So, before going forth with the plant hormones, let us first understand what are hormones. Hormones are nothing but they are chemical compounds which will help or which will aid in control and coordination inside the living organism. It might be a plant or an animal. Okay, it will help in coordination with the environment as well. So let's talk about plant hormones. What are they, how many are they and how do they work? So we have got 4 over here: auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin and abscisic acid. Okay, so among these 4, the first 3 are growth promoters and the last one is the growth inhibitor. So growth promoter is something which will increase the growth or which will help in growth, whereas growth inhibitor is something which will stop the growth or which will not allow the growth to go further. It is something which will put a stop line to the growth. Okay, so let's see what are those promoters, how they function. Okay, then let's go for the inhibitors. So let's start with auxin. So auxin is present at the shoot tips. Okay, at the shoot tips of the plant, as you can see here on the screen. Okay, so this will okay, what is the function of the auxin? They'll help the cells to grow longer. Okay, and they are also involved in phototropism. So how is it involved? Okay, so what happens is, as you can see here on the screen, okay, wherever the sunlight falls at that particular region, what happens is the auxin which is present in that region, they are going to travel on the opposite side, the side which is having shade or the side which is not receiving sunlight. Because of this, they'll increase the growth in that particular area, causing the plant or causing the shoot to bend towards the direction of light. As you can see here, okay, it's easily shown in on the screen right now. Okay, so that is how it is involved in phototropism. Next, let's talk about gibberellin. So gibberellin will help in the growth of the stem similarly as in auxin. Auxin, though they are present at the shoot tips, gibberellin will do the same job, but they'll be doing at the stem region, that is at the girth region. Okay, next comes cytokinin. Cytokinin will help in cell division. Okay, they increase the cell division, okay, especially the regions where the division is rapid or the growth is rapid, like in case of fruits, seeds and all. Okay, they grow very much faster and they wilt out faster. So in those regions, they are found in higher amount. And the last one comes the inhibitor, that is abscisic acid. As said before, its job is to stop the growth. So it inhibits growth. It is responsible for wilting of leaves, okay, drying of leaves or falling of leaves. Okay, they all come under abscisic acid. They also act as a stress hormone. So in case of plant, whatever the stress in a plant cell can be observed by the amount of abscisic acid. If too much of abscisic acid is present, that means the plant is being stressed and it's not able to grow. It will start to wilt and it will start to dry off and they're going to die. Okay, And apart from this, like in your previous board exam, they have been asking you a question, that is in the preparatory, they have asked you hormone responsible for ripening of fruit. So normally according to your syllabus we should go for abscisic acid, but that is not the case. For ripening of fruit there is another inhibitor, that is ethylene. This particular hormone, plant hormone, is responsible for ripening of fruit. So it's better to explain it to you here. So I have just mentioned here so that if at all it's asked in the future exams, it might be easier to you. So that's about your plant hormones. Now, before ending the session, let me tell you that I have already made a tabular form for study material for your plant tropisms as well as hormones along with its function. Okay, a very easy way to study them. The entire part is explained, or is for the study material. It is shortened and precised so that it becomes easier for you people to study. I'll just leave a link here in the description box so that you can go through it and find it beneficial. Okay, so that's about it. Okay, if you have any doubts, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Till then, thank you for watching.